The Cobb County family still reeling after someone shot and killed a young mother in the family driveway. It happened on Kelly Chapel Road. Raesha Heard's family tells Fox 5 her 8-year-old son watched it happen.
The courtroom was tense. Cameras flashing. Reporters whispering. And then, her sister's voice shattered the silence. "You killed my sister. Look at you just sitting there, guilty. Look at his eyes. Those demonic eyes. Do you see them? He killed my sister?" The words cut like a blade. This wasn't a performance. This wasn't a movie scene. This was raw grief and rage from a family demanding justice. And the man she was pointing at? Justin Rene Lewis. To his fans, he was Mad Muzik Cali, a Louisiana rapper chasing fame. But to two grieving families, he was no artist. He was a monster. Because sitting in that courtroom wasn't just a man on trial. It was the dark heart of a story that left two women dead, his wife, Sidni Dalcour, and his ex, Raesha Heard. Two women, two families, two murders. Coincidence, or the work of a cold-blooded killer? Before headlines, before crime scenes, before hashtags in courtrooms, there was just Raesha. To the world, she was Raesha Heard, but to those who truly loved her, she was simply Rain. Rain was 31 years old, but she carried herself with the warmth and wisdom of someone who had already lived several lives. Her smile? People said it was the kind of smile that didn't just brighten a room, it changed the temperature in it. When Rain walked in, people sat up straighter. Sadness seemed a little lighter. Strangers became friends. She lived in DeKalb County, Georgia, a place rich with culture, community, and family ties. And for Rain, family was everything. She was the proud mother of two young boys, ages 9 and 8. To them, she wasn't just mom. She was safety. She was love. She was the center of their world. Every school morning, she made sure they had what they needed. Clothes laid out, breakfast on the table, encouragement whispered before they walked out the door. In the afternoons, she was the one at the games, the one clapping too loud, the one making sure her boys felt seen. Her friends said she made motherhood look effortless. She was the glue, they explained, the person who held everyone together. Rain didn't just raise her boys. She lifted her entire family. If someone was down, Rain picked them up. If someone was struggling, Rain became their strength. And outside the home, Rain's heart was just as big. She worked as a nurse at a local healthcare facility, pouring the same love and empathy into her patients that she gave to her children. Colleagues remembered how she'd hold a patient's hand when they were scared, how she'd flash that radiant smile and say, "You're not alone." For Rain, nursing wasn't just a job, it was a calling. But here's the truth. Even the brightest light casts a shadow. And behind Rain's sunshine, there was pain she didn't always talk about. Wounds she carried in silence. A relationship that dimmed her glow. On the outside, she looked unstoppable, unshakable, untouchable. But those closest to her knew. Rain was fighting battles nobody should ever have to face. When Rain first met Justin Lewis, better known in the underground rap scene as Mad Muzik Cali, he didn't look like a monster. He looked like a man chasing a dream. A Louisiana rapper, always hustling, always chasing the spotlight. He'd film himself freestyling for celebrities, desperate to be noticed, desperate to go viral. To Rain, he was smooth, charismatic, the kind of man who knew exactly what to say to make a woman feel chosen. For a moment, it felt like maybe this was someone who could keep up with her energy, someone who could match her ambition, someone who could love her the way she deserved. But charm has an expiration date. Her family says it didn't take long before they started to see cracks. Justin's sweetness soured into control. His attention turned into obsession. His words, once flattering, became cutting. He belittled her. He hurt her. What started as romance twisted into intimidation. Rain, who was known for her radiant spirit, began to dim around him. Friends noticed she wasn't laughing as loud. She wasn't as free. They begged her to leave. They told her this wasn't love. This was danger. And eventually Rain listened. She broke things off. She tried to walk away. But if you've ever spoken to survivors of abuse, they'll tell you, leaving doesn't always mean freedom. In fact, sometimes it's the most dangerous thing you can do. Because abusers don't lose gracefully. They don't let go. They cling. They stalk. They punish. Rain wanted to rebuild her life. She wanted peace for herself and her boys. But Justin? He wasn't ready to let go. And the red flags that everyone feared were about to turn into sirens. October 11th, 2023. It was supposed to be an ordinary evening in DeKalb County, Georgia. Rain had just returned to her parents' home on Kelly Chapel Road. Her car trunk was packed with groceries. Snacks for the boys, dinner for the family, the everyday little things that make up a mother's world. Her youngest son, just 8 years old, hopped out of the car to help her. To him, it was just another simple moment with Mom, carrying bags inside, running back and forth, the sound of crickets in the air. But in seconds, everything changed. From the side of the house, a shadow moved. A figure lurking, waiting. Then gunfire. The stillness of the evening was shattered by the crack of bullets. Rain was struck multiple times. Her body jerked, collapsed. The groceries spilled, rolling across the driveway. The bags that once held food for her family now scattered in blood. And standing just feet away, her son. An 8-year-old boy, too young to understand, too small to protect her, forced to watch as his mother, his safety, his entire world, was ripped away in an instant. He screamed. He froze. Trauma etching itself into his mind forever. Inside the house, Rain's family heard the shots. They ran out, hearts racing, panic in their throats. They saw her lying there, broken, in front of her child. They dropped to their knees. They begged. But the damage was done. Rain was gone. Murdered in cold blood in her parents' driveway. A crime so brazen, so heartless, it didn't just take a life. It destroyed a family. And the question burned hotter than ever. Who could do this? For Rain's loved ones, there was no mystery. Their eyes were already on one man. For Rain's family, there was no question. They didn't need detectives to draw up sketches or comb through evidence. They knew who did it. They had seen the warning signs for years. And now, they were convinced those warnings had exploded into reality. But if the murder itself wasn't enough, what came next was beyond belief. Because just days after Rain's brutal death, while her family was still burying her, still wiping tears from her children's faces, Justin Lewis, Mad Muzik Cali, wasn't hiding. He wasn't running. He wasn't grieving. He was live. On Instagram. Smirking into the camera. Laughing. Dismissing the murder as if it were just gossip. He mocked the rumors, brushing them off like dirt from his shoulder. He taunted Rain's family, practically spitting on their grief through a phone screen. In his live stream, he denied Rain was ever his girlfriend. That wasn't even my baby mama, he sneered. The only woman I ever loved was my wife. But those words cut deeper than anyone expected, because the wife he spoke of, Sidni Dalcour, was already dead. Shot and killed back in 2017. And her family? They were just as certain as Rain's that Justin had blood on his hands. 2 women. 2 stories. Same ending. Both tied to the same man. Both leaving behind families who screamed for justice, but who instead watched him brag and posture online. Rain's loved ones watched his live stream in disbelief. Their sister, their daughter, their friend, lying in a coffin. While the man they believed pulled the trigger went live for clout. For attention. For likes. And the most chilling part? He wasn't just denying. He was mocking them. At one point, when Rain's family posted about her murder, pleading for justice, Justin didn't just see it. He liked it. He clicked that tiny heart as if her death was a joke, as if their pain was entertainment. Imagine that. You bury your daughter, your sister, the mother of 2 innocent children, and the man you believe killed her is scrolling, smirking, and double-tapping your grief. The audacity, the cruelty, the evil. Rain's family was shattered, but their rage was fuel, because now they weren't just grieving a murder. They were fighting a man who seemed determined to use death as his stage. And beneath it all lingered the darkest question of all. Was Raesha Heard's death part of a sickening pattern? Was she just the latest chapter in a cycle of women who loved him, trusted him, and ended up silenced forever? For days after the murder, Rain's family felt like they were screaming into a void. They told anyone who would listen, "It's him. We know it's him." But instead of seeing handcuffs, they saw Justin Lewis free.
Alive.
Online.
Posting.
Police admitted they had identified a suspect, but they held back. No name released. No mugshot. No statement that would confirm what everyone already knew. And for the family, the silence was torture. Meanwhile, Justin leaned into it. He acted untouchable. On Instagram, he puffed his chest out, brushing off whispers of guilt, mocking the idea that he could ever be caught. To Rain's grieving loved ones, it felt like an open wound being rubbed raw, again and again. But arrogance has a way of writing its own downfall. On October 19, 2023, just 8 days after Rain was gunned down, DeKalb County Police made their move. Officers tracked Justin Lewis to Forest Park. The man who once called himself Mad Muzik Cali, the rapper who craved an audience, suddenly had an audience of a very different kind. Heavily armed police closing in on him. There were no more live streams, no more smirks, no more taunts, only the sound of metal handcuffs snapping shut. The rapper who once tried to freestyle his way into fame now faced a new label, murder suspect. Charged with malice murder for the brutal killing of Raesha Heard. For her family, the news hit like a storm. Relief, yes. A small breath of justice, yes. But it didn't erase the pain. Their daughter was still gone. Her boys were still motherless. The image of Rain bleeding out in her parents' driveway would never fade. One of her relatives put it simply, "I'm just happy Justin is captured. Because we don't want any other family to feel what we've felt." But even with him in custody, even with police finally saying his name, the wounds were too deep to heal. Because for Rain's family, the arrest wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of another fight. The fight for justice in court. When the arrest finally came, Rain's family felt a flicker of relief. But relief doesn't erase grief. It doesn't bring back a sister. It doesn't replace a mother's love. It doesn't wipe away the image of blood on a driveway. Rain's brother, Ralph Jr., stood before cameras, his voice shaking as the words spilled out. "She was my rock. She helped me heal when we buried my brother last year. And now she's gone." His tears weren't just for Rain. They were for the weight of a family crushed again and again by gun violence. First his brother, now his sister, the people he leaned on one by one, taken. Her best friends, girls who had known her since 9th grade, couldn't even finish their sentences without breaking down. They remembered her laugh, loud and contagious, echoing through school hallways, parties, family cookouts. "She touched so many lives," one friend said. "She always had a smile. Always." But perhaps the deepest cut of all came in the smallest voices. Her children. 2 little boys who should have been worrying about cartoons, school projects, and soccer practice now live with a memory no child should ever carry. Their mother's last breath, her body collapsing in front of them, groceries scattering across the driveway. Imagine being 8 years old and watching your mother die right in front of you. Imagine being 9 and realizing she will never walk you to class again, never see you graduate, never meet your future children. Those boys lost their future the night Rain lost her life. At the funeral, as the casket lowered into the earth, Rain's family clung to one another. Friends said the sound of her children crying over her coffin will haunt them forever. The family described it as a scream that doesn't stop. It just echoes inside you. Rain was supposed to be their light, their glue, the one who held everyone together. And now she was gone. And with her, the family's world cracked wide open. As Rain's family grieved, another voice rose from the past, one that made the case even darker. Because Rain wasn't the first. Back in 2017, a young woman named Sidni Dalcour was found shot to death. She wasn't just anyone. She was Justin Lewis's wife. Her family had screamed the same words Rain's family was now crying. He did it. Look at him. He killed her. And now, years later, Sidni's sister's words cut through like a dagger. You kill my sister. Look in his eyes. He's guilty. 2 women. 2 different times. 2 different places. But the same ending. Both tied to Justin. Both dead by gunfire. A coincidence? Or a chilling pattern? For Rain's family, there was no doubt. They believed Sidni's blood was the first warning, and Rain's death was proof that no one had listened. And for the community, the questions grew louder. How many red flags do we ignore before tragedy repeats itself? How many women must die before someone takes the danger seriously? Because this wasn't just about one man. It was about a cycle of violence, a pattern of abuse, a history that had been written in blood. And now, with Justin Lewis sitting behind bars, the question remained, was justice finally catching up? Or was this only the beginning of a story still unfolding? Rain's story isn't just about one man. It's about the red flags we overlook, the abuse we excuse, the whispers we ignore until they turn into screams. It's about the danger of waiting too long to walk away. Her family has said it again and again. Don't fall in love to find out the hard way. Hands are not for hitting. They are for hugging. These aren't just words. They are warnings. Because behind every smile dimmed, behind every bruise explained away, behind every "it's not that bad," there is a storm waiting to break. Rain's death forces us to ask, how many times have we seen the signs in our own lives, in our friends' lives, and stayed silent? How many times have we scrolled past the cries for help? So I leave you with this question. If someone you loved showed you the warning signs, control, cruelty, threats, would you step in? Would you speak up? Or would you wait until it was too late? Drop your thoughts below, because your voice might be the one that helps someone else escape. And if Rain's story shook you, hit subscribe. Not for the gore, not for the shock, but because every story carries lessons that can save lives. The more these stories spread, the more eyes are opened, the more lives might be spared. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember Rain, not just as a victim, but as a mother, a sister, a friend, a healer, a woman who should still be here,